use my affiliate link to support the channel down in the description. Hey, what's up, guys? MadGamesGX here, and welcome to episode 4 of BrandedCast. And we have two extraordinarily special guests, very much a long time coming. Basically, the most requested guest so far since starting the podcast. We have the man, the myth, the legend, Galzo with us. We do have Yuri Diaz as well, Mr. Top 16. So we do have a meeting of the minds for the episode. So very happy to have you guys on, and we just want to ask how you guys are doing.
Doing great. Really like the home stretch of Nationals grinds. So it's kind of like it's weighing on me for sure this national season. But yeah. I'm really happy to be with both of you here. It's a pleasure and an honor. Two notable figures in the branded community for sure. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm doing great as well. Just a little Blazing Branded King reunion, you know? That's all it is, my man. And I'm looking forward to working with both of you today. It's an honor, you know. I've watched your channels grow, and it means a lot to me that we're constantly passing the torch to all the branded lovers out there. You guys will do well at your nationals. Just stay to the grind.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I just wanted to, with this mega episode, I wanted to go over your guys' kind of just like history with Branded, and then just ask you guys what you guys are going to be thinking about, like kind of post-info Branded, because that's going to be, you know, a pretty crazy format. But Galzo, you are preparing for your nationals. That is next week. How has the nationals grind been going? How are you feeling about that? How are you feeling about Branded in this current format?
I think the grind nationals is in less than a week as we're recording this as of today, and I wasn't super motivated to test a lot. I feel like I do know what the other decks can do. I think it was mostly about like figuring out there's so many like minor tweaks in like the branded build nowadays where it's just like one more card, one less card, you put this to the side, you actually add this to the main or stuff like that. It's very, very like minor tweaks. I think people who play branded by now, most of them, at least the ones who do good or do well in tournaments, know to pilot the deck really well. So it's not about that. It's just about like adjusting the builds. And it's mostly theory, I think. I think you can't really tell from actually testing what needs to go out or what needs to go in. Because at the end of the day, Branded is a dark horse in this format. You will win tournaments by just, you know, capitalizing on the fact that Branded is a very high skill ceiling deck that not a lot of players can win with. And I think Yuri is a perfect example of like a person who had a good day at the YCS, knew his matchups, knew the deck in and out, and like I've known him for a while. He's been grinding this deck, and it paid off. So, to sum it up, I'm not feeling super jazzed for nationals. I really want it to be over, but I'm excited to. I'm really happy with my decision to play Branded because I think you should always play the deck you're having fun with and you're comfortable with. And at the end of the day, go have fun. It's not about stress. It's not about like pain and suffering. It's just a game. So do what you like.
Yeah, and I definitely, I was actually listening to your last podcast, and you were talking about how you were playing even Snake Eye at different points, and when in like still having that choice of going to Branded, I think shows it's, you know, one of those decks that you can take format to format and really just change the build depending on, you know, the micro meta that goes in every 2 weeks, you know, depending on the events, people switching up their deck builds. And, you know, I think that we are kind of just, you know, in the last stretch of this little Snake Eye format before we get to info, which really changes a lot, but which kind of like, I feel like you are very much going to be honing in on the testing for this format, whereas like me and Yuri, we're going to have to be basically testing for this post-info format. But, you know, we're very much looking forward to seeing how you doing well, brother. And Yuri, I wanted to ask you, what are you doing now for the Nats format? Because I believe you're going to be going to the US Nats. So how are you going to be preparing as a branded player for the Nats for the post-info format?
So, luckily for me, I have like some incredible players like at my locals. So like usually before like a big event comes, like I test like I host a mini YCS on my house. So I definitely have like a lot of great players playing with me, and I'm just I'm just really not looking forward to that like Link 2 that Snake Eyes is gonna get, that little Underworld Goddess card, because that card alone is gonna break Snake Eyes, and it's not really looking too good if they get that card. But again, like Branded is so resilient, and the way it plays and the way it could tech cards like Super Poly, the Black Goat Laughs, stuff like that can just give it a slight edge that might be able to take it to the top. And like one thing too is you have to have a great testing group of friends, and great friends that support you in your choices. And luckily, we also have the Blazing Branded King chat. So anytime we have like anything, like we always talk, and even in your Discord, Chris, I'm not too worried about like Nats because I know I'm gonna have a lot of fun testing. And even if Konami decides to throw a curveball and give them that link, certainly they'll probably also give something to Branded, because they haven't hit the deck. Slowly, they've been giving it little tools here and there. It's just really like having confidence and really testing that matchup. And that's ultimately going to be Snake Eyes. You have to like master that. The way I've mastered that matchup for the YCS, I only lost to one out of like 7 or 8 of them that I played. All I was, every time I beat them, I was just like, you know? Nah, but you just really have to be confident in your ability to play, and like try not to misplay, because like one misplay in Branded just costs you the match.
Yeah, no, I think that's actually what we talked with Pac over when we were at India. Then also, Pac brought this up on your latest episode of your podcast, Galzo, that Branded is one of those decks that it's a tough deck to bring into like a 9 to an 11 round event, even because it's still like, in my, maybe in basic words, it's still like a mid-range to combo deck. So there's a lot of, your plays really matter, and if you end up misplaying at least like once, your opponent can really capitalize that much easier than with a like thing like a Snake Eyes deck, because you don't run hand traps for the most part, and things like this. So I think that Branded, I think it's always been that versatile option, and I think that's also kind of why it doesn't convert, but it still is that deck you can bring in format to format, change up in the players who know how to play the deck, keep seeing success with it. So I think that can kind of transition us maybe quickly into, because some people did this is the first question, viewer question for Mr. Galzo. With a emergency ban list on the horizon, do you think that Konami is, what do you guys first think of what you would want to see for the emergency ban list? And then the more specific question for Galzo is, do you think that Konami will ever like really take a jackhammer to Branded on the ban list? Will they, what is a Branded hit on the ban list going to look like? And do you think that Konami is going to hit Branded at all?
I think I'll start from the end. In my opinion, and you mentioned it when you were talking just now about like the matchup and the you must not misplay with this deck. Like, look at the people who pick up this deck. Like, you pick up this deck as an underdog. You come to a tournament, like there's barely any Brandon and Top Cuts like today, right? You pick it up probably out of like pure passion. You either love it, you either love playing it, you like the challenge. You don't pick up the deck because it's easy. So, in my opinion, like, people are like, yeah, Branded Fusion is a very strong card. Albion the Sanctifier Dragon is a very powerful card that can do like unfair stuff. But if I need to judge like what Konami is going to do about specifically Branded, is like a deck that barely makes Top Cut, like, should it be hit on the ban list? Especially given that it's just way past its prime, I think. And it's always going to be like that good rogue contender at like around tier 1.5, just because when a good player picks up the deck, they're going to do well with it. Like, if you know what you're doing and you don't misplay. But again, it's like, it's a super punishing deck. It's super punishing because you have to play it perfectly. It's very complicated. You need like a lot of experience with it. So Konami going and like, oh, okay, branded opening to 1, branded fusion to 1. Ban Sanctify, I don't care. I mean, I don't really think that matters to the deck at all if it gets banned. But in general, like every time people go like, oh, branded fusion is so unfair, I'm like, the deck doesn't top, man. Like, why? I know people hate the deck and don't like the playstyle and think like branded fusion is cheap. But if you're listening to this and you were thinking before, like, yeah, I think branded needs to get hit, like, why? What's branded doing in the meta right now? Except for like popping up once in a while, one deck out of 32 in YCS Indie by a very, very skilled player. Like, it's not just somebody who picked up the deck and like went with it. So
it took me 3 times bubbling back to back to back to finally get there.
It's not easy, so leave us alone. That's first of all, that's my request from Konami, and I think Konami listens. They do leave us alone. They have not touched Brandon. I think banning Expulsion was fine. It's still hilarious that the only banned card, like out of the branded, like the only like touched card is branded Expulsion. Regarding Snake Eye, I wish like, just ban Flamberge or something. I really don't want to see the Diabellstar engine go. I think the Diabellstar engine is great. I really like that engine. It's good for many decks that can capitalize on level 1s. It's good for Infernoids, Rescue Ace. Decks that are honestly kind of fair. Like, they're pretty fair. It's just impossible to play in this format where every 1-card combo is like infinite advantage and the rest of your deck is like 20 hand traps. It's not Yu-Gi-Oh! It's not fun.
Yeah, exactly. And when you see Konami, they kind of dealt with Super Heavy Samurai, which I felt like had a very similar kind of just play line as Snake Eye, where you just had a bunch of 1-card combo or ways to a 1-card combo plus a bunch of hand traps. And they dealt with that pretty swiftly. You saw like I thought that was a staggering number once again brought up on your podcast, where Tearlaments have less YCS wins than Snake Eye. I felt like that is crazy to me that we have been longer in a Snake Eye format than full power Tearlaments. That was a staggering statistic to me.
Yeah, if you look at nationals now, it's also going to be like double that as well because it wasn't even around like national season.
Yeah, so I mean, to me, when I see that, there has to be on some level a emergency ban list, especially with the Fiendsmith stuff around the corner. I don't know if we're gonna get that link too. I mean, I figure we'll just get it, but we still haven't even gotten the new Fire King card, so it's I think either way, Nats is going to end up being interesting. I think Flameburge actually, you mentioned that is probably the best hit. I've definitely toyed with different ideas. I know it's the year of the fire, so like Promethea Princess being banned might end up like kind of ruining that idea. I just think that Snake Eyes itself is really just stayed a bit too long, and we could go for the consistency like the OCG did with the wanted poster and Snake Eyes Ass, but I think that's really panned out to be not the way because Snake Eyes is doing just fine over there with the Fiendsmith stuff. So I think that you actually do have to ban Flameburge, or I've heard OSS too, but like I think that the fact
I don't understand that kills the whole wanted engine completely.
Yeah.
Like there's no real point. I think people, it's surprising to me like how many people think that banning original Sinful Spoils is the right play. Like it kills. If you watch a Snake Eye combo, they don't use that card. I mean, have you noticed that they don't play that in the combo at all if they open Snake Eye's Ash? So it kills the wanted engine without banning any Diabellstar cards. So it doesn't make Diabellstar a starter anymore. You don't need to play it. Essentially, it doesn't give you anything. So it just cuts down like 6 starters from the deck, or like 7 starters, which could be the play, I suppose. Like now thinking out loud, like cutting 7 starters from the deck, it's not that bad. But I like Diabellstar. I don't want her banned.
Yeah, I like how they keep releasing like cool little engines that we can kind of run in these decks. Like I think Fiendsmith is going to end up being a pretty overtuned one if Beatrice is still legal, but that's besides the point. I think that No, Yuri, I'm not sure if you had any thoughts on the ban list or on what you would like to see. I just think that I've heard from other people, like Jeff Jones, I think, made a Twitter thread, and he mentioned that Appaloosa and Zealantis were the issues and should be banned. I think if we're to get a timely ban list, it might be a bit of a gut punch to see Appaloosa banned like a month into Rarity Collection. Like, at least with Baron, they waited a couple months, but I do think Appaloosa is one of those cards that definitely could go I feel like that's another route they could take. I just think that the Zealantis ban ends up hurting other decks too, but I don't know how you feel, Yuri.
Yeah, no, but for the most part, throughout the history of the game, we've seen like them banning like link monsters and extra deck monsters the most. Like, so I can agree that Appaloosa and Zealantis could actually get hit, but like the most logical hit makes sense to either like limit or semi-limit like the little starters that Snake Eye Ash has, like Snake Eye Ash and Poplar, but it won't do anything. That's why like the extra deck might be a great approach, or Flamebridge to stop their recursion, because it's kind of ridiculous that during their turn and during your turn, they're gonna like use Flameberg effect to bring back two, and it's just a constant thing, and that's
It's
the thing that
awful.
yeah, it's just broken. Something needs to happen. As for branded, like I don't even think it deserves a hit. Like it takes a lot of mental capacity to play that deck to the T, and I misplayed and punted top 16 because I just forgot that I can't chain. I had to chain duplication first and then super poly. But like that comes to show like that you have to be a very dedicated branded player to like play it like that. Even if they hit Sanctifier, like I'll be sad, but like the deck's still playable. Um, I don't truly, in the bottom of my heart, Brandon shouldn't get hit because, like, in reality, what really are we doing? Most of the top cut decks are Snake Eyes, and like, it's funny. This is the second time I top in the Tier Zero format, but like, I knew that we were like ever since like the data doesn't lie. Like, it's just all Snake Eyes. It's the year of the fire, so we gotta understand that. But I really hope Konami does make a great decision on hitting and addressing that deck because it's time.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I do think it was kind of interesting that a lot of the coverage of Snake Eyes the last 2 months, of the meta, because we see all the nationals happening around Europe. It ended up we saw a lot of not Snake Eyes, so it kind of felt like a more of a wide open format. And then of course when we get to one of the biggest YCSs, it was just straight Snake Eye. So I think it really just kind of mask off moment for the current format in what we're at, and that's why we saw the mass everybody looking for a ban list, because everyone was kind of like, oh, we're fine, we're all playing at locals, like it's not like, and people were getting bored of Snake Eyes, so it's like if no one's bringing Snake Eyes to their locals anymore, so it's just like, yeah, no, I think we're due for a change. I'd be very surprised if we didn't get a list before at least the Euros and US Nats, but we'll see. Anyways, I do think that we had this kind of ties into the info format, because there's a few new cards that I think we're going to be able to use as branded players that I want to really just get your guys' opinions on, especially because we had a viewer question on for Mr. Galzo, if how you felt about the new Light and Darkness Dragon support and branded, because like in Infinite Forbidden, there is new kind of retrains of the Light and Darkness Dragon cards, except that they're pretty generic and actually quite splashable and runnable in a branded variant, and the boss monster gives us a new Omni Negate kind of in an Appaloosa sense, but it's a mandatory effect. I just wanted to see how you felt about that, if you've toyed with that in branded, and if you think that maybe we should be looking forward to maybe tacking that in kind of like Dragoon was in prior formats.
Yeah. I think is it one level 8 dark dragon and then one level 8 light dragon, something like that. That's the materials.
Yes, that's the summoning condition.
And what level is it?
It's a level 9, so we cannot
Yeah,
summon it
that's the
through
problem.
Lubellion or Albion,
That is the problem.
unfortunately.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say. So I've seen it be. I've seen a branded list running it. I personally have not tested it myself, just because I've been, playing current formats and regionals and tournaments. Haven't really had the chance. I should have. I should have made a video about it because people were really hyped about that. I think there's two problems with this card. One, it's a level 9.
My bad,
Level
it's a level
9's
10. Sorry.
It's a level 10. Yeah, I remembered it being higher than 8. So if you guys don't remember, like, Lubellion and Albion can summon level 8s or higher, or lower, sorry. And I think Branded in red and Cartesia can only summon higher. And even Branded Banishment, I think. I think Branded Banishment can do that too. So it requires a lot of like setup. It's not impossible to do, especially if you're playing like 3 main deck Lubellion. You might have it in the hand. You might use it as material. You can't just go Branded Fusion and go into it using the monsters that Fusion summon. You can't do that just because nor Albion or Lubellion can do that. So it requires setup. And in addition to that, I think that it's a question on whether you want to lock your own game from playing with the Omni Negates because they're mandatory. So you're essentially like letting it burn. For people who didn't play with Light and Darkness Dragon, like you got to burn it first on your opponent's effects. They choose how to interact with it, and you can't really respond to it as well. Like they can activate 3 effects that don't matter, and then normal summon Snake Ash, and it resolves, for example, right? So it's a double-edged sword. It's cool. I'm gonna definitely experiment with it. I'm not saying that like don't play it. It is viable, but I think it requires like less setup than a Dragoon, for example, which is also not seeing play today. So think about that. Kind of like, does Branded actually need it? Maybe. I think it's cool, but I think it's not eventually gonna see like a lot of competitive play, but it's definitely gonna see some play.
Yeah, no, and I think that we also have the Whitewoods cards coming out, which I personally am looking quite forward to. I've seen a lot going around with like Centurion having a 1-card combo with the with the level 2 in the Whitewoods. I forgot what her name is. My bad. I'll put up a picture on the video, but it is basically a 1-card combo into Calamity on top of Cosmic Blazar, which is pretty nuts. And I think that it might actually reinvigorate for us branded players a branded synchro variant, because I think ever since the Savage and the more so the Baron ban, branded synchro players have been pretty down bad, and it's pretty good to see these cards come out because they are light spellcasters with the same attack and defense, so they are very much synergize. They very much synergize with the branded cards. They go with the Lulu Wall Lilith, and they all kind of help extend. And I don't think it's really for a pure variant where you're trying to resolve branded fusion every turn, but I think that it's something that you guys can look forward to, and branded synchro enthusiasts will have to play around with to have really fun combo lines. And then,
Yeah.
oh, sorry, Yuri, if you have any thoughts on this.
I was gonna say something too about the new lad, the new fusion that we're getting. So, one thing that you guys probably missed is so there's builds that play multiple Lubellions and banishment. So that on itself, you're gonna be able to reborn back the Albion with banishment when you used it off Lubellion, and you can set it, and then Lubellion plus the Albion makes the Omni negate right away. So it gives branded banishment a lot more utility to special summon that monster. That's one thing that I forgot to mention, but I didn't want to interrupt. As for the Whitewoods, like it's such a great splashable engine. Like we already seen in the OCG, people are just playing the pile decks with like a splash of tier elements and like some Whitewoods and like branded. Mind you, branded is like limited over there with like opening and fusion, and it's still like performing. Like it's kind of crazy. I'm really looking forward to testing those cards, but We just gotta perfect the ratios, and that's one thing about branded. You just gotta like go with whatever works for you, because sometimes your ratios might not be optimal for another person, because they'll deviate or like slightly change the line, but will accomplish the same end board. But it's just very, very complicated. But I'm just really hyped because like those cards directly like help our deck be slightly better, because Cartesia and Quem automatically like become like viable, and that's something that if we don't have fusion deployment or like opening, we don't have access to. So that's really all I have to say.
Yeah, no, that's well said, and I think that we're gonna be definitely get your play sets of some Whitewoods cards if you're looking forward to that. But I think that there's also the Multchummy card, because I think that we can right now, Multchummy, the new Max C, of course, that in the TCG we don't have Max C. OCG still does have it. I think that the OCG kind of printed this card maybe to eventually ban Max C, but this card's going to be interesting and going to, I think, have an impact on the meta. It's definitely going to be a secret rare out of info. I would bet money on that personally, but that's besides the point. I think that info format people have been dubbing as FTK format, and because of that, I think hand traps, ever since the last few formats, have really been ramping up in their value in the main deck. And as branded players, we have normally just been fine with running board breakers. Like I remember Kashtira format, a lot of us were just slamming 3 Dark Ruler no more in our deck because we couldn't run Droplet. Right now, a lot of people, I think Droplet has been quite standard in a lot of people's decks. Super Poly really has been on the way out, but, has always been an option. I think that, we might be looking forward to a format where we might actually want to consider some hand traps in the main deck. And I wanted to get your guys' opinion on really just how you guys felt about the hand trap versus board breaker debate in branded. And then with info in mind, with cards like Ghost Ogre and Droll, I think currently proving in the OCG post info format to being the best or some of the best hand traps. Like if we're maybe going to have to adapt and go with like what Creighton Pre was running, where he was running 60 cards with 3 Ash, 3 Nib, and do different ratios there. I don't know how you guys felt about that.
I think that the problem with branded and hand traps, and the reason why like everybody eventually gravitates towards board breakers, is because when you have a hand trap format, drawing one hand trap isn't enough. Like dropping one hand trap on your opponent is not enough. If you think now about a Snake Eyes combo, you could theoretically drop an Imperm on a Snake Eye Ash and it resolves and it ends their turn. Or you drop an Ash on OSS and it ends their turn. That's in theory. But the reality is that Branded has a big engine. Usually it goes up to like 50, even 60 cards. And in order to see a combination of 2 hand traps, which is what you need to see in order to stop a Snake Eyes deck or a combo deck, you need to be playing a ton of them in 60 or 50. Like you need to be playing half your deck, right? Like think about Snake Eyes. Half of their deck, they usually like 40, 44 cards. Half of the deck is hand traps, and they see usually like 2. And it's good, right? They see 2, maybe a starter, maybe an extender. That's a god hand every single time. But the reason why in Branded it hasn't been done is because the engine is big. So Snake Eyes is a very small engine. Everything else could be hand traps. Tenpai, very small engine. Everything else could be hand traps. That's if you look at the decks that run a lot of hand traps, usually the engine is just small. But with Branded, that's not the case. It's a big engine, and it's the card quality of every single card is like really high. So you do have an incentive to play a lot of engine cards. And in combination with that, board breakers going second will do a lot more than one hand trap individually. Like one Dark Ruler will do more than one Imperm, right? Or one Book of Eclipse or one Droplet, stuff like that. And that's just simple math. You could run 3 Ash and 3 Nib and 60 cards. You will see one of them every 4 games, and I mean that's cool. I don't personally think that's how you should play it, but it did work for him, obviously. So I think that you draw good enough, you draw well enough, then it works. So I think that's why Branded looks like that. Uri, I'm interested in what you think about that.
Oh man, I everyone keeps asking me that question. Why don't you run hand traps? I've been
Doesn't
a fond
work.
believer since day one that we're just a board breaker deck because like Ash isn't a combo piece. It's not a light and a dark. Nibiru might have justification to be played because it's a light, but like they don't do enough. I've tested it several times where I'm just like, oh man, I wish this card was just like another tragedy or another Cartesia or something. Um, I completely agree where like one imperm doesn't do enough. Like a dark ruler just serves you purpose. But there's one thing that I do have to say is like the YCS I was faking Nibiru and like I was tilting people. I was counting their summons. There's a lot of mind games in that where people just don't know your deck and you can take advantage of that. And but as for hand traps, this deck it just runs too much engine where you have to just play all engine and not hand traps. They don't contribute anything really to your game plan unless it's like an all and be all type of hand trap, which might be Multchummy, but we have yet to test.
Yeah,
That's my
I
take
think it
on
is.
that. And
You
if you have
will.
any
I think
questions
you
as
will test it.
well, let me know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
I think Multchummy. I think there's kind of like no reason not to play it, especially in branded, because you want to see more engine and more board breakers. You don't care about the hand traps even. You just need engine to push. This is why I like Yuri's deck where it was 60 cards. The 60 builds have so much gas. And when you're playing into a board with branded, you just need every card to also do something different, but also like push into the board. Like crack, 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 crack. And the last card is usually branded fusion, right? That's how we break a board. So Multchummy is insane. There's really no, again, because branded has a lot of payoff with those one really high value cards, like one Book of Eclipse, one Dark Ruler, one Evenly, one Droplet, stuff like that. Like one card does so much that dedicating 3 places, like 3 spots in the side deck for Multchummy, I don't think it's a main deck card by any means. I don't think it should be ran as a main deck card, but going second, you draw it in your opening hand, you drop it in the draw phase, and you don't give a damn about anything else. Like there's no loss. I think people will gravitate towards thrust because of that. That could create like some sort of like, okay, so I'm going first. I'm gonna side in thrust in a silver bullet for your deck. So if you Multchummy me, you can draw infinite. I'm gonna set the barrier and pass to you. It doesn't matter. So it's gonna create a little bit of a balance. It's not a super fun card. I don't really like the fact that they printed it because it's essentially maxi. It feels like maxi. Snake Eyes combo, you draw at least like 2-3 from them. And it's gonna be fun though. It's gonna be fun to get it twisted. I don't think it's gonna be a secret. I think it's gonna be a common, by the way.
Really? Okay, so you heard it here first, folks. Galzo thinks it's
We're gonna
be
do a little bit
common.
of a bet. I'm good with the rarities.
Okay.
sheesh.
I'm
My
the one
book
who said
goes in for a
Promethean
super.
Princess and Poplar will not be secret.
Okay, fair enough. I did
Yeah.
think they were gonna be secrets, to be fair. Now I think that Multchummy, I think they'll at least give it the opportunity to be a QCR, but we'll see because it is a common. I think
That's true.
it's gonna be really funny to drop against flu players. I think that it's our like one-stop shop for flu players now, which is like obviously just one of our storied matchups of all time. But I think that yeah, definitely pick those up for your side deck. It's gonna be a fun card to be running there. We also had some questions about the mirror match and kind of just like theory behind that, because I feel like the branded mirror match is one of those things where you don't always expect at a tournament, but when it comes up, it really puts you on pressure for your deck building and your skill of branded. I played the mirror match at YCS Indy round 7. I was like X1-2, so I had 2 ties already. It wasn't looking great, and I lost the die roll. And in my hand, I saw a droplet actually, which is typically great in the mirror match. But he ended up doing the puppet line that a lot of people have been doing, where you basically end up setting up a branded loss with Grand Guignol and branded in red on board without Sanctifier. So by the time they go branded in red, they've basically already puppet locked you under loss protection. But he also opened up Fusion Duplication, which didn't help. So, that card just being an insane counter in the mirror. I think that, and I subsequently went on to lose by game 3 when I didn't draw, again, more engine. So I think that the mirror match has always been something that's a tough matchup. I think with Puppet in rotation, it really makes it into maybe a die roll situation. But I alluded to before the deck building aspect of it, because what I loved about Yuri Diaz's your list from YCS Indy was that you main decked branded Banishment and Blazing Branded King, and I feel like those are in Super Polys, and I felt like those were all just amazing cards for the
good mirror cards.
Yep, exactly. So like
Branded Banishment just solos the mirror. It's so insane. It's so back and forth.
Even if you're behind resources, you just activate Banishment and it gives you a second chance. I took that into consideration when I built my list. I have to respect the mirror, and like I played 2 mirrors at Indy, and like unfortunately I had a team kill one of my boys, Nana. Shout out to Team Interstellar. But like honestly, if you win the dice roll, like you're gonna win the game. It's kind of unfortunate, but like if the branded player knows what he's doing, he will always uninterrupted gimmick puppet lock you. Like, there's just no and ifs or buts. Like, that's like, the nail in the coffin. But if you play cards like multiple fusion duplication and stuff like that, it kind of does alleviate the mirror. I did test the mirror against my friend Alejandro. Shout out to my boy, by the way. He gave me food and he helped me top the YCS, because you definitely need to have food and everything in your system to, play for 10 plus rounds. But I really, really respected the mirror in my deck list, and like moving forward, like you should always keep that in mind, because you'll run up to one of those like super high like branded players if you're doing well as well, because we are ultimately influencing the branded community, in my opinion. So we should always like keep that in the back of our pockets. We should have like Banishment or Super Poly or something, so we could like not lose so much to the mirror.
Yeah, no, and I think your 3 fusion duplication really helps the mirror too. I forgot to mention that just being a blowout going second, being able to steal your opponent's fusion. I'm not sure, Galzo, if you really had any like kind of tips or things that you've noticed through the last few formats that have helped you out with the mirror match.
So yeah, I think that one of the things that was especially good for me whenever, so we're a small community where I'm from, so it's usually like I'm being targeted as, if it's going to be like 150 people nationals. It's very small. Okay, people know exactly who I am. They know exactly what I play. They test against me. Like half the community plays me in locals. It's hard to hide what you're playing. So people know that and they respect that. Like people are just going to play Foolish Return just because Galzo is playing in the tournament. So that was like the UDS Tex against Andres Torres, where people just played Foolish Return because they knew he was going to puppet lock. So you have to get extra creative there. But in terms of the mirror, it only happens like once in a while where I encounter a player. I mean, I'm not the best branded player. I'm talking about like IRL games. Usually I have a little bit more knowledge and experience with the deck, but sometimes it could go like either way. I think that of course, like Super Poly, awesome. Duplication, great. Banishment is the best mirror card of all time. I think that for me, it was actually Crossout that helped me a lot with mirrors, because it's a card built for mirrors, essentially. It's not a branded card, but it is a card that is really good in this format, I think, because everybody plays Ash, everybody plays Deep Barrier, and you can also play Ash and Deep Barrier for Thrust, so it kind of works really good together. And also, it wins the mirror. So I would get, they activate it in red. That under lost lock that you mentioned before, they activate in red. You as the branded player know exactly what's going to happen. Chain Crossout, call Gimmick Puppet Nightmare, have fun with your branded in red. I don't really care. So those kind of things, when you're a branded player and you know, like the deck is so much about thinking 5 steps ahead that when you look at a player playing the mirror, you know exactly what their optimal line is and you know how to play against that. So if they don't take the optimal line, that's great. If they do take it, you should know how to deal with that as well. It's not even about practicing the mirror. It's just really about being a good branded player. I mean, the mirror doesn't matter as a match, right? You obviously need to know like what to prioritize. I think people, in the mirror Jade is not such an incredible card. Like it's not one of the best cards in the mirror. Like cards like Rindbrum, cards like Dragostapelia, cards like Furious. Those cards are like, a little bit better than dealing with like effects and stuff. So it's just like understanding, I shouldn't do my default board. I should do a board catered to what happens if they normal summon Albaz. What happens if they set Albaz? How do I deal with that? It's a lot of practice. This deck is about mileage at the end of the day.
100%. That's why I feel like it respects you, a player who is willing to invest time in it. I know, like, when I first started out playing Branded, I was, like, kind of debating on dropping it for a different deck after Nats because I kind of thought that the Nats last year because I thought that they were going to nuke the deck. I also thought I just, like, should branch out to other things. But then my one friend told me I should really stick with the deck because, it's one of those decks that is good across formats. And, Yuri also came through with the assist the last, 6 months, just, really helping me test and bring the community together. And, I think Branded very much, like you said, it's that mileage. So, the more you put time into it, the more it's going to respect you. The less you're going to misplay through those 11 rounds. And, I think those are very good points for the mirror match. Sometimes I'm just... I'll side out the puppet in the mirror match because I know I'll be able to use my opponent's puppet. I think that there's a lot of different aspects to it. I mean, obviously we saw Pack and Steven with the double gimmick puppet, which was pretty funny, but goated Yu-Gi-Oh moment.
Yeah, so cool.
Yeah, no, and I think that it's definitely one of the matchups of all time. So I think that hopefully will give people some direction with the mirror match. I think that mentioning Stapelia too and Renbrum, those cards are so good in the mirror because Mirror Jade's just all it's going to do is banish your opponent's Mirror Jade, which triggers their Mirror Jade, and it's always just such a back and forth. So being able to have those edge cases, I think that the crossout was a great point. I actually think that's something I'm going to consider in my side deck going forward, especially for Nats. I think if I had missed something, it was definitely the crossout in my side deck because I think I built my deck for Indy to play through the D barrier, but the fact that crossout has 3 different applications in crossing out D barrier, crossing out hand traps. Sorry, I need water.
Crossing out droplet as well. Bestials, called by the grave, everything that it can interrupt you with pulling off a puppet lock can be crossed out because you already played those cards. Unless it's specifically Foolish Return, you should already have already have the Ash Blossom, you should already have the Bestial, you should already have the Droplet in the deck, you should already have the Call by the Grave. You have all of these. So there's no reason why that card wouldn't be good. Against exactly what you're trying to pull off. If you have a game plan and I should win this, then you take out your going second cards and you put in a crossout and you sometimes you need some prayers, but that's Yu-Gi-Oh! A lot of the times it doesn't really matter what you open sometimes.
No, for sure.
100%.
Just cross out on triple tack is great. What were you going to say, Yuri? I'm sorry for cutting you off.
I said, no. I agree, man. But crossout's one of those cards where you have to build your deck towards it. Like Galzo was saying, cute interaction with crossout that I really liked, but I can't play him no more. Is crossing out Dark Magician and then using Lubellion effect to making the Dragoon.
Insane.
Some spike.
The reason behind crossout, I think that I agreed that you need to build your deck around it because you need to be able to get as much as possible out of the crossout. Putting in I just looked today. I was in Discord with my friends testing, and I scrolled over on DB to look at my Nats list from last year. It was, first of all, so funny. Crossouts in the main, hand traps in the main because of super heavy. It was like expulsion was in the main back then, but I digress. I think that the reason why there's such a good point in time to play crossout in your deck is the fact that, again, as I said, like the D barrier that is good in the format and also searchable with thrust, the droplet that this deck loses to and you already play, Bestials and Call by the Grave that you already play, Ash Blossom that could technically be in your side even as a 3-of, because it's a really well-rounded card against everything in the meta right now. Tenpai, Pearly, Melodious, Voiceless Voice, stuff like that. Like the card works in the mirror as well. So it's sort of like a point in time where you already play all the good targets anyway around it. So it's not that bad to like, it doesn't take a lot of like room to dedicate for crossout because you're already using those cards anyway. That's why I kind of advocate for it at the moment, but I do agree that sometimes it's just not like, if D-Barrier wasn't good in the format, you wouldn't play it. You wouldn't play for thrust. You wouldn't play crossout because you can play through Ash and it's like fine, right? But right now it's like a point in time where it kind of fits.
100%. And now I do want to kind of shift over to some more maybe non-meta questions, but now, Galzo, you're, I think, known as really like really the lore guy for the community. You've put out so much great content on the Albaz lore. I think that everyone really appreciates you for doing that because your videos are incredible on that. I'll definitely link down below. I'm sure everyone has already seen them, but if not, please, because they're a work of art, honestly. But I want to ask you personally, because there is, of course, with the World Celebration, we had an anime trailer with Konami's in-house animation studio, new one, and we saw a bunch of different lore pieces get animated for the first time, and of course, we saw Tales of Ecclesia there with the Albaz lore we saw, and I think that was really cool to see for the first time animated, and that really gave us an idea, or the first inkling of, hey, maybe we can get some sort of Yu-Gi-Oh lore based anime, and maybe even an Albaz anime by extension. And I think that I'm not sure if you saw this, but over in the OCG, there was a survey going out officially through Konami. I'm not exactly sure of which branch it was, but they basically were giving out surveys and asking players who watched the 25th century celebration for the worlds and watched that animation trailer, kind of like what they thought about it. And there were basically questions leading into, if we were to continue producing animation projects based on, basically the Yu-Gi-Oh lore, how would you want to view it? Would it be on TV? Would it be web-based? Would it, yada yada? But I think the most relevant part for us, they asked they gave 5 examples for lore that you would want to see in the future, and the Albaz lore, I think they put it down as Tales of Ecclesia or Tales of White, basically would be the Albaz lore. So I think that's why I personally voted for. Hopefully that my one vote will, and everyone else will send our energy forward so that they get the idea that is something we'd want to see. But I'm not sure if Konami's consulted you yet, Galzo, but is that something that you think will happen, or what would you want to see for maybe kind of an animation project based on the Albaz lore, or even Yu-Gi-Oh lore in general? Because you've also done a video on the Visas lore, so I'm sure you would love to see that too.
Yeah, I think that starting from the top, I saw the survey. I also answered it. I shared it on Twitter. Answer this immediately. If you come across this post, go in there, put in the 5 minutes of work, because it's not every day that Konami's like, hey, do you want something good? And all you have to do is take 5 minutes and say, yes, I do want something good. I do want something I like. I remember the day when the Tokyo Dome animation release came out, every big YouTuber released a reaction to that, people were ecstatic. Like, there's no denying that it had a really positive effect. And I think Konami noticed that. Okay. You don't create an animation studio with the purpose of like doing one short in like the 25th anniversary celebration. Like, it's not that. We already saw the second piece of work that they did. They did a animation trailer for tactical tri-decks for the Eldritch, Live Twin, and Cyber Dragon decks. They did like a 15-second or 20-second animation, a new one for those decks. So essentially, we're getting another precedent here where they are using anime to promote product. So that's already, like, if you look at Magic the Gathering, for example, every core set, they would have like this like big like Marvel CGI trailer, and like even like an intro video. It's going to be like 5-10 minutes, like a very expensive production with voice actors and stuff like that. So that's essentially like going in that direction. Like, okay, Infinite Forbidden comes out. What if we give you like 10 seconds of animation on each archetype and give you some lore? Because we know that the lore exists. Like, they designed the cards with the lore in mind. So all of that, love it. Amazing. Good work. This is exactly what people want. In terms of like what they can do with the Albaz stuff, I'm not really sure. I don't want to get people's hopes up and my hopes up as well. I think like there's I did a video once with James Brown Jr., who's a voice actor on Yu-Gi-Oh! Sevens. He did some of the voices in my Visas lore video, and he's a great guy. He streams Master Duel and Yu-Gi-Oh! And stuff like that. And he said, I asked him basically the same question, like, what do you think, as someone who worked in the industry of like the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime, what do you think is going to happen with Albaz? Because he's also like an Albaz fan. And he said, like, I think that Konami, like, given the amount of work that they put into creating the Albaz story, like, guys at home watching this, listening to this, it's not like they put a lot of effort in like the story of the cards. Like, it's not game designers coming up with card effects, like actual game designers writing a story that fits and makes sense. Like, and Albaz is the biggest one out of them all. Besides like probably the World Legacy, Albaz might be like the biggest and most expansive. So he said, I don't think Konami is gonna throw away all that work, and we're seeing that right now. We're seeing that with like an anime short. We're seeing that with the Albaz White. I don't remember the full name. The collection, the card collection. It's gonna come out with like storybooks and art that hasn't been seen before. So keep that in mind. Like, there has only been one collection like that in the history of Yu-Gi-Oh! And it was like just to celebrate the numbers monsters from Zexal. It didn't really have a story tied to it. And the second one ever that gets it is Albaz. And obviously Albaz is a huge fan favorite. Konami knows that. So to sum it up, if anything is going to happen in the realm of like an animation, a short, a video, a show, a movie, it could be a movie, it could be a short movie, then it's going to be Albaz. I mean, have no doubt about it. No one is going to watch a 40-minute video about Zeus or Melfi or Live Twin. I mean, nobody's going to watch that. So if something will get prioritized, and it eventually will, because they have a company that, you know, like is for animation, then it's going to be Albaz. So enjoy the fruits of being an Albaz fan. We get new things every once in a while. We get a collection. We got some sleeves. We get some new cards. We get some alt arts. So, you know, it's worth investing in Branded. Like, Konami loves Branded. There's no denying that Konami just loves Branded. So, you know, sit tight, enjoy the ride, and it's gonna come.
Very well
Man, very well said from one of the blazing Branded kings.
I am one of them.
I'm just really stoked when we come to that era where like we actually have like a dual disc and holograms. Like, I can't wait to like be able to have a Mirror Jade just hologram just come out of my dual disc.
Dude,
that's the real goal. But like, I feel like Konami will slowly get there. You know, it just takes like some years of technology and stuff like that, because I know they were saying that as well, that they wanted to make holograms. So shoot, hopefully that
Yeah, I mean,
happens. That way all the Blazing Branded Kings eat well at the table.
listen, if you look at the original like Duel Monsters anime or just like any of the animes, um, look at how much time it takes them to play with these holograms. Imagine like a full Snake Eyes combo with holograms is literally going to be like 34 minutes. It's a nightmare. It's like I summon Ash, and then I summon Ash again, and then Poplar and Flambridge, and then I summon two of them again. It's like, oh my god,
Oh no.
get it over with.
Yeah, no, that's great. And yeah, no, in terms of anything else that we were going to cover, so what Mr. Galzo, what are your other favorite decks besides Branded? Do you have any other decks that you maybe like outside of Branded? I've seen you make deck profiles on Chimera before. Maybe that's something you've been experimenting with the new Melodious stuff, but you tell me.
Yeah, I'm gonna probably like next Thursday. I'm gonna finish Nats. Hopefully, I'm gonna finish them on Friday for day 2, if I'm lucky. And then I don't want to touch a Branded card for like 2 months for sure. So Chimera has been one of them. I think it's a super versatile, interesting deck, and I think I was similar to Branded. I wouldn't say I was an early adapter to Branded, but I think I am an early adapter and early believer in illusions. So I have all the cards. I picked them up since day one. Now we have Apprentice and the Albaz are a little bit more expensive, but it was affordable up until now. And I'm a believer in illusion. I'm just a believer. I want to see more support. We're getting the rabbit in Infinite Forbidden. It's gonna be really good. The Link 2, it's a busted card. And I think Chimera, and again, like this is a tip for all of you if you're looking for something with longevity, because I think a lot of the times you can invest in like a deck like Snake Eyes. And that's why I kept with Branded most of the time, because I knew that it was for the long run. It's not going to be tier 1, but because it's not tier 1 and you're good enough with it, it's just not going to get hit over the years so much. So it's a very safe spot, in my opinion, unless you're like, you want to go to a YCS, you want to play the best deck, sure, pick up Snake Eye. It might get banned in 3 months, right? Consider that. But I think Illusion is a really good investment. Not an advisor here, but it's the beginning of the Illusion type. It's going to get more support each set. So I'm really enjoying messing around with that. I'm also a big fan of Sky Strikers. So I'm really looking forward for Battles of Legend Terminal Revenge, who's going to have like alt arts, the Link 2, the Link 4. It's going to be fun. I'm a huge, that was my main deck before Branded.
Oh, really?
And also, yeah. But my first deck was Altergeist, and I'm a big fan of Altergeist as well. I just ordered like collector's rares, multi-fakers, and the QCR Link 4s because I just love that deck so much. I wish it was good, but it sucks. But I'm still gonna play it. I'm gonna rock locals with it. So yeah, I like Striker, I like Geist, I like Illusions. I do like the Voiceless Voice. Honestly, like the playstyle and the cards and the lore and the art. I love, like, it feels good playing that deck. It feels kind of wholesome and not super toxic. It's not a toxic deck at all, I think.
Just don't run Sanctifier.
Also, like, yeah, I'm done with that. I was like, here you go, YouTube. You can summon Jaugen here, and now I'm gonna go switch to something else. Yeah, I like a lot of decks, to be honest. I can't wait to finish with Nationals so I can play something else.
I bet. Yuri, is there anything else you're looking forward to? Are you breaking Cosmo any day soon? There were so many people in the deck profile.
Everyone kept asking me, man. Even at the YCS, they're like, bring back Cosmos. I'm one of the pioneers that topped when Pepe was like tier 0. I was like the only top Cosmo and top cut, and I love Star Wars, man. Like that's my deck.
Damn.
Like when Tin Can came out, I'm like, damn, Tin Can back at it with the white bands. That's when that white bands meme was on. But that's one of my favorite decks of all time. Like Star Wars and just the Wizard of Oz, mixing them together was just a great thing that Konami did. It was one of the best TCG exclusive archetypes that ever been released, and like I really hope that the deck gets more support. Slowly, it's getting support, like with like Psychic Processor and like that Psychic spell that searches a Psychic monster. But it doesn't take the Cosmo deck to the next level. Hopefully, Konami hears this and says, "Oh, shout outs to my boy Yuri. I'm gonna make him this Link monster that breaks Cosmos or something." But it definitely does need more support. Another deck that I've really loved for ages is Shadal's. Shadal's has been my baby. I created the Shadal group on Facebook, and that's just one of my decks that's just been there. I have a Shadal sweater that Mystic TCG made for me. Like I love him. Shout outs to my boy Ethan.
It's one of the best
Shadal,
monsters. Shadal sweater.
yeah, yeah. Mystic TCG has the Shadal sweaters. They're really nice. It has all the doll cards in the back of the hoodie.
It should have something inside when you flip it inside out, so it's like a flip effect.
Oh, that's so good.
Shadal sweater.
The doll sweater for real. Yeah, I really love Shadal's fusions have always been my thing. I'm a GX era type of dude, so get your game on.
That's where we get the Meta Games GX from, so I agree with that. I think that is a pretty. I mean, like Yuri, is there? I mean, we had you on to talk about the YCS before, but I just wanted to like ask you, since we are formally on the podcast, like, was there, like, congratulations on your top 16, and I'm very happy to announce here that I said it before, but you'll be going to Nats this year, so I think that did you have any really final thoughts on YCS Indy and really any, because I'm gonna show off the deck list on the video, but a lot of people did really like your deck list with a lot of the new techs with the 3 fusion duplication, blazing branded king in the main. I think that were there any changes you would make in the end? I mean, we did talk in the deck profile about this, but I know with a week set in, like any final thoughts or really in retrospect about that format or about that deck?
Yeah, I would have probably definitely changed my side deck, like the Tikaboo and like the D barrier would have been 2 more Black Goat laughs. Shout outs to my boy Raul. He got second place at his nationals, and I know that card definitely overperformed. So like moving forward, that's probably the only change. I think my deck list was stellar in and out. Like I nothing bricked me or nothing stood out like, oh, it's lackluster. No, everything had a purpose, and like I had the desires to win. So I played desires and it got me there. And I just had like the most random deck in the room. People were thinking that I was on light sworns and stuff like that. It was great. But like I think moving forward, like uh branded should be played over 50 cards, or like if 50 or above, because like you just want to have nothing but gas to compete with all these decks. And in order for you to like even have that, you need to play draw cards like desires. That's the only pot card that I see like branded could keep playing, as long as like they don't limit like the branded cards too much. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, Galzo. I want to hear
You didn't
your what
play
wisdom.
Patchwork, right?
No, I think there was too. I was scared of bricking on it. Like, I love
Mhm.
that card, but like it just contributes to a lot of dead hands.
Yeah. And did you play Allures? Allure of Darkness?
Yes, I played triple
Yeah.
allure.
And
Yeah,
Triple
and
Desires, probably.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to 60, you have to play both of these cards at 3. I think the 60 is a very, very fun build. I personally really like Patchwork because it's just a board breaker most of the time. So I do like
mhm,
it. I don't think it's like here or there. I'm personally like the deck that I'm hoping to finalize for nationals. I'm
yeah.
at the version final 12.
Oh,
It's probably not going to be 60 cards, unfortunately. I have it in my back pocket, but I think I'm feeling a little bit more comfortable with less at this point.
mhm.
Even though, I mean, I remember taking it with the Sheeran and stuff. It's just so good. It's just an insane deck. And I also been playing 3 Fusion Duplications for a while, testing it. And I'm not sure what I'm gonna play at the end. You'll have to see the deck profile once I go X3 and drop.
No, you have my
But
blessing, Galzo.
yeah,
Back-to-back
wow,
Nats champ. I want to see.
Yeah,
I want
you
to
have
see
my
it.
blessing, bro. You do. I
so
believe
much
in you.
pressure. Thank you. I appreciate that. Branded is just so fun. I think I love 60 card builds personally. I saw your build and I was like, oh my god, so base that he plays 60, so good. We also had Nicholas Athanasopoulos. He was, I think, the Hungarian champion last year. He was kind of like one of the early folks on 60 cards. He played 60 and he topped the French nationals this year. He was top 32, I think. So shout out to him as well. Really accomplished like branded player. He also played like a 60 card branded Chimera build, and won like a pretty big tournament with that. So that was good as well. So yeah, I mean, don't be afraid to go to 60 cards. You won't even feel you're playing 60 except for when you're shuffling.
Yeah, on your wallet. You'll feel it on your wallet, but that's about it. Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, you did see Eric or sorry, not Clifton Land. We had him on the channel. He topped Raleigh with a 42 card build. You do love to see the different options, but personally, like I'm definitely with Yuri, where I just have not been able to go back below 55 cards. Every time I go below 60, I just kind of miss my options, and maybe that's just me being greedy, but I do like 60 just allowing me to do that. But
there's no right answer. Like, it doesn't matter at the end of the day. If you know to play your deck well, it's going to be fine no matter what number you're on. And remember that in Yu-Gi-Oh in general, you need a good day. You just need a good day. So it doesn't matter how much cards are in your deck, but open your mind up to the different options, because there's so much variance to brand that you can build from 40 to 60. It's all going to be playable. It's all going to be different styles. So it's really fun to be able to have so much variance in that space. Like, imagine how little variance there is in Snake Eye. Those poor souls who play that deck.
I've heard the mirror matches are pretty abysmal. I wouldn't know, but every top player I talk to.
Nah, they're skillful, right? God damn. Throwing hand traps at each other. Just miserable, guys. Just miserable.
4 hand traps in the starter. Nice deck, my man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you posted a meme. It was just like every hand trap in the book on the guy's playmat, and that just kind of encapsulated the format pretty much to a T. Unfortunately, that is, I guess, like final closing thoughts. It's just almost like that is, I'm not enjoying the deck building that Konami is going towards in terms of the decks that can facilitate 25 non-engine and then 15 one-card starters. I'm not a huge fan of that, and I think that will come and bite us in the butt kind of eventually. I think that it's not great for gameplay, because you guys just saw a lot of hand traps and crossouts being chained basically all weekend at Indy on stream. So it's stuff to consider, but I did want to thank both of you for coming on. Thank you, Galzo. It's been a wonderful time having you and Yuri both on to talk branded. This felt like a meeting of the minds, and I thought that we covered a lot of great topics, answered some viewer questions. So I do want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to do that. Is there obviously, you do have your YouTube channel. We're going to link down below, of course. Please make sure you're subscribed to Galzo, and make sure to check out his upcoming first place Nats back-to-back deck profile. If there's anything else, though, you wanted to plug, let me know. Let us know now.
Yeah, just no plugs, honestly. Just like a few things. Thank you so much for having me, Chris. I think that your channel has really grown. It's great content. So it's wonderful to see. Yuri, also congratulations. You're bringing. I remember the day of the YCS in the group when you topped. It was such a joyous moment, and I'm really happy that there's this collaboration, guys. There's no the Snake Eyes podcast. there's no the Voiceless Voice podcast. Like the branded community is unique. We might be a little bit cringe and lame, but we love each other. And I think the big emphasis here is that when you have like a Yu-Gi-Oh deck that brings all these people together, I think it's something special. So I had a blast. Hope to be on this show again. Let's keep cooking. And on to Nats. I'll see you on the other side, I suppose.
Yes, sir. Yes,
for sure.
sir.
Branded best deck.
Brand Best
Yeah,
Deck and
baby.
Yuri, I just want to thank you very much, brother. You're, like I mentioned before, you're the reason I'm still on Branded, and I do want to say congratulations. Seeing you top in person was, being around with the Blazing Branded group chat, and just it was just a very surreal experience. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing what you do at Nats. Like me and you were taking 1 and 2 at Nats. I'm just saying that right now, but
Yeah. I'll
thank
see
you,
you at the
brother.
top table, my man. Always. It's a
Yes, sir.
pleasure. And Galzo, it was an honor to, be in your presence. You finally,
Oh, brother, no. No, same.
All right, man.
All right, guys. I think this has been your episode. We'll be seeing you guys later. Make sure to leave a like down below and comment. And we'll see you guys later. Have a great day.
Branded best deck.